let's get to Oppenheimer. Listen, first mistake that most people make going to this movie, they're looking for bombs to drop. You're not going to see Hiroshima and Nagasaki get bombed. You get a brief glimpse of Fat Man and Little Boy as they're loaded into the crates. So if you're going to this movie thinking you're going to see mass destruction and loud explosion, well, you do get loud explosions, but mass destruction, no, no, no. You're watching this for the wrong reason. You're watching this for the wrong reason. Listen, this movie has every white dude that you don't know their names, but you know their faces. This movie has every white dude from the last 20 years. You're like, yeah, him. And then him. Oh, that's old boy. Remy Malik is in this. The guy that played Freddie Mercury, he's in this movie. I didn't know that. Dev Patel from the movie Hereditary and the Green Knight, he's in this movie. Homeboy that's always playing a soldier from Zero Dark 30, he's in this movie. And there's some old white dude. I was like, hey, I remember him. Man, listen. Man, listen. Christopher Nolan killed it with this cast. There's not one bad cast. There's not one actor in this movie that doesn't belong in this movie. It's perfection. You wanted 1930s, American men, like the white European. You got it. You got perfect German casting. The guy that plays the German that was working with he's perfect casting. And then the guy that played Telly, the big Arab dude, perfect casting. He's in. I was like, God damn it. Yo, for 3 hours, I was glued to the theater. I love history. I love dramas. Nolan can do no wrong in my eyes. Now, once again, please don't come here and say, well, there were no black people. Duh. Did I expect Nolan to mention the 13 black men and 2 black women that helped him achieve this global event? No. I didn't expect him to mention any black people, let alone show. The only time you see black people in this movie is they made a reference to Carolyn Bryant, the sister that died from radioactive poisoning because she was a polonium expert, right? She's so mixed. I thought she was a white woman because there's this discussion. She's like, I don't know what it's going to do to my reproductive system. She's the only woman introduced to the team at Los Alamos. So I assume that was Carolyn Bryant. After they tested the Trinity test, there's a celebration. You see one black person in the crowd, and then when Oppenheimer went back to UIC to do more recruiting against Colonel Rhodes's wishes, you see one black person that kind of introduces everybody to Oppenheimer. So that's as far as you're going to get as far as black folk in this movie. I don't know why you thought you was going to get a super historical accurate depiction of it per se. Like, don't do that to yourself. Okay. Cillian Murphy killed it. Matt Damon did his. I was thoroughly and Robert Downey Jr. playing Strauss. So this whole time basically is 2 parts, 2 Oppenheimers we're dealing with. Post Trinity test, a pre Trinity test, post Trinity test. Talked about his life at Cambridge. At one point, he tried to poison his teacher, his professor, with potassium cyanide. He met the one British physicist that inspired him to leave Cambridge to go to America because at that time, Oppenheimer was the only one talking about quantum mechanics. Okay, in the beginning, it was quantum mechanics. By the end of the movie, it's quantum physics. All right. So Oppenheimer was always inspired by the stars and then the raindrops when they hit water because, the raindrops, the ripple effect, it would spread out and it's just multiple hits. So then he has these flashes in between, these almost nightmare flashes of nuclear fission, atoms exploding, ICBM missiles flying overhead. This was a deep fucking movie, man. This was deep. Listen, for it, the pacing wasn't too bad. The pacing wasn't too bad, but I was locked in because like I said, I'm a history buff. Um, Let me see. After the crowd cheering, I thought the movie was done. A whole another movie. Yeah, so the third act, it gets into Strauss's plan to basically ruin Oppenheimer because Oppenheimer embarrassed Strauss during a committee hearing for radioactive isotopes. So then Oppenheimer kind of puts on a show and kind of makes fun of the request for isotopes at the expense of Strauss. Okay, in the beginning, Oppenheimer is a communist, or he was introduced to communism. Communism is like really big in the 30s and 40s. You had McCarthyism. By the time he renounced communism, he called himself a New Deal Democrat. This is where I need Nick for this. Um, the feds keep a tab on him because of his allegiances to communism. Jean, the first woman he was dealing with off and on, she was a staunch communist. At one point, he's like, I can't deal with you because you're a communist. The only way he can work on this project to be even get onto the project was he had to denounce communism. His wife, before he met his wife, she was married to one of the old professors. They were having an affair. She got pregnant, and she got timed the divorce just right to divorce the old man. That way she could marry Oppenheimer and have the baby and no one suspect a thing. The one guy he was cool with, his mentor, Chevalier, if I remember correctly, was a spy, right? And then, so Colonel Rhodes comes to him. Oh my! I'm not gonna try to break down 3 hours. It's unreal. At one point, there was a Russian spy, Fuchs, one of the scientists named Fuchs. He was a Russian spy because midway through their program, the Russians created a bomb similar. A homeboy, Battelle, he proposes an idea using water. He said, why don't we just use water? It can compact the atoms, get a greater kilowatt of energy expanded. And he was like, you mean like a hydrogen bomb? He's like, yes. So he was the one that inspired the idea for the hydrogen bomb, not so much Oppenheimer, but if going by history, whatever the case may be. So midway during the atomic bomb construction, they were messing with the idea of using building a hydrogen bomb, but Oppenheimer nixed it. He's like, I don't want to do that. Let's just focus on the atomic with the plutonium U-239. Let's do that. They do the Trinity test, and then they dropped it, and then activated the bomb. And all you see the light show, and then like 5 minutes later, the concussion blast hits. This is a loud movie. Because during those flashes of nuclear fission here and there, this and this and that, the bass, it's just loud. It's almost it will irritate you. It will almost irritate you. It is so loud and so pulsating. But that concussion blast when it hit, because everybody's like, yeah, 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 and then it's just boom, and whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It's like, God damn it, because you just see the light. That's all you see, and there's silence. And they were like 3 miles away, so it took a while for the concussion blast to get to everybody. But when that shit hit, yikes! Oh my God, so many things I'm gonna miss with this, but I'm not gonna chime on too long. But this was a great fucking movie. Another hit for Nolan. Another hit. So don't go in, man. Listen, at the very least, see it in Dolby. If you can do it in IMAX, that's cool too. Oh, and then at one point when they were back at UIC trying to play around with the ideas of nuclear fission, Oppenheimer was like, it's just a theory. It can't work. And then they found out the Germans already had been able to split an atom and ping it. And so they tried to experiment. The young boy did it. He's like, yeah, I can do it. It can be done. Because Oppenheimer's all about theories. And old boy's like, listen, theories is one thing, but at some point you have to test the theory. So when they finally figured out how to split the atom, multiple times, then it's like, okay, now the race is on. But the Russians got a head start because one of the scientists on the project was a Russian spy. Then there's Colonel Pash. Colonel Pash was sent in to investigate Oppenheimer, Colonel Pash was the son of a Russian Bolshevik. So you can imagine him, anything with communism, they were like, this guy kills communists with his bare hands. So then at one point, Rhodes and Oppenheimer are having a discussion, and Rhodes is like, what did you tell him? Did you not know you couldn't? Oppenheimer was so naive. For as brilliant as he was so naive. All the people that they had around him, they were feds. Federal agents were sent in to kind of infiltrate and get tabs on Oppenheimer because of his past allegiances to communism, right? And there was this ongoing debate between socialism and Marxism, and everyone's like, socialism is the way. Socialism is the way. Don't do fascism. Fascism is bad, but socialism and communism is the way. All right. So, as a favor to Oppenheimer, Rhodes had stationed Colonel Pash to Europe midway through his investigation. And then, so the third act, we get into where Strauss pretty much organized this fake tribunal to revoke or not give Oppenheimer any more security clearance, right? So they brought in Roy Robb, the main prosecutor, right? So it was Strauss's assistant. It was like the whole time kind of piecing together, like, what really happened with Oppenheimer? Why did the government turn on him, right? So then, him and Strauss are having a conversation. And then towards the third act, the assistant kind of understands that it was Strauss the whole time. He's been plotting this for the last 6 years against Oppenheimer. Strauss is trying to get a cabinet position. So what ends up happening is Oppenheimer kind of turns the tribunal kind of against Strauss. They agree that he was loyal and he not a communist, but they still revoked his security clearance. Unanimous. Nope, 2-1. It was a 2-1 vote that he didn't get a security clearance. So then what ends up happening is because of that, enough people rallied around Oppenheimer. This has become Rami Malek's character, because towards the second act, he's just in it for like a spot here, a spot there. I'm like, this guy's too big of a star to be in this movie for like 5-10 minutes. So then at the hearing, he gives his speech. Yeah, they're trying to, steer Oppenheimer, trying to run him into the ground, all because of Strauss, and Strauss was embarrassed, blah, 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 blah. Everyone's like, oh. All right. So then comes time to vote. If Strauss gets the position, Strauss does not get the appointment. The assistant tells him there were 3 people that voted against you. He says, oh, okay, who were they? And he says, well, there was one young senator from Massachusetts, John F. Kennedy. I was like, ooh, JFK. All right, so it pretty much ends. So then the speech, okay, we gotta go flashback. When Strauss was trying to appoint or give Oppenheimer the position at Princeton to run the department, Albert Einstein is there. And Strauss didn't know that Oppenheimer and Einstein were like this. He said, oh, I didn't know. He said, yeah, I've known him for years. So he goes out. This is the scene in the trailer where his hat flies off and he goes out to there to give it to him. So then towards the end, because you don't know what he said to him, when Strauss walks up, he says, hey, well, how did it go? And then Albert Einstein walks past Strauss, doesn't say anything, doesn't even look at him. So they go back to that conversation. He says, you know what they're going to do? They're going to, basically punish you for being great. Same thing they did to me. You know what I'm saying? They're going to use you, and then they're going to turn on you. And then after years later, they're going to give you an award, not for you, but for them. And then we fast forward, Oppenheimer gets I believe a medal or a Nobel Peace Prize, whatever the case may be. And all his old buddies that work on the project with him come up to shake his hand. Everybody's old and shake his hand, whatever the case may be. And you hear the speech that Einstein's playing and narrating in the background. And so then Telly, the Arab dude that introduced the idea of hydrogen, goes up to shake his wife's hand. She doesn't shake his hand because the whole time she's like, look, is Strauss trying to bury you? Why are you so naive? They're all against you. Even though she was a drunk and was a half-assed mother, but she still understood. She saw these niggas was like on his neck. And he was like, why you just can't see it? That's the condensed version. This was a very, very good movie. Riveting. What grade? Like A-, man. A-. I mean, the dialogue alone, because if you're trying to understand 1930s American men, 1930s Germans, 1930s Europeans mindset and how they dealt with each other. I may hate your guts, but I'm still gonna be, give you decorum, but I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna wait this out. I mean, it's just, bruh, bruh. This was super. It was a super dope movie. Super dope movie. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then they were like, well, the Germans, after the Germans conceded, whatever, they're like, the Japanese are not going to concede. They're not going to surrender. Well, why wouldn't they? The Germans did. And they're like, no, the Japanese are not going to surrender. So then the funniest, the killer part of this entire movie, they're picking out cities to bomb Japan, right? So the head chairman says, well, let's not bomb Kyoto because of its cultural significance, and plus me and my wife had a honeymoon there. Nigga, the white man is so cold. Chose not to bomb Kyoto because him and his wife had their honeymoon there. That's the most gangster shit. White man undefeated. I don't care what you. He said, me and my wife honeymoon there. Scratch this off the list. So they had 14 cities to choose from. Holy cow. And they picked Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And then all you see towards the end after the test is them loading up the big bomb and the little bomb onto the truck, and they leave, and they pretty much leave everybody out to dry. The military is like, okay, job done. We out. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, listen, it's loud. It's loud. It is a loud movie. When it hits, it hits. Those flashback scenes. And then, during the speech, all the people stomping their feet on the ground. It's just deafening. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. That was my Oppenheimer review breakdown.